Mike was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease about a year before the tumors. It served as a baseline because we knew at that point there were no tumors. And then he started having headaches. You know, he was very tired. He was struggling with his words. They finally did another MRI, and one of the doctors came in and said, "We found 6 lesions on his brain." And they diagnosed him as stage 4 glioblastoma. It was all radiation, chemotherapy, and then there was an infusion, and it was every day. It was grueling.
You know, I think the hope was that it would help him in his quality of life. Unfortunately and sadly, the disease had progressed so far that there wasn't a whole lot that they could do to help him.
We knew that at that point, we were looking at months.
It gave us from April all the way till December, a few days before Christmas.
You know, 6 months and all of a sudden, boom. It was just a runaway train. You know, there was no stopping it. His big passion in life was running. He went to MSU on a cross-country scholarship.
When it came to athletics, that guy loved to win. And I would say his best athletic achievements were when he was competing at a very high level as an Ironman triathlete. He became driven to qualify for the World Amateur Championships in France, and he made the team.
My dad was one of those people who would never stop until he felt he reached the pinnacle of success. He was going to be number 1.
He was always number 1.
Yeah.
You just imagine, you know, this guy was an Ironman. You know, it's like I didn't think anything would bring him down. And holy cow.
Thanksgiving morning, 2022, Rob and I were going to do a fun run together. About 3/4 of the way, I had a seizure. So we went to the ER and the CAT scan came back and it showed a tumor, and it did come back as oligodendroglioma, stage 3. 2.5 weeks later, I went in for my awake craniotomy because it is in the language area of my brain.
When she came home from the hospital, the only thing I really noticed is she was struggling to find like certain words.
With time and speech therapy, I was able to regain the language that I have now, but I don't think it's completely back to normal.
A year ago, it was like always on my mind. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? But now it's kind of like regular life.
The fact that we get to have boring weeks where kids went to school, Tracy went to work, I went to work, we come home and do the normal stuff, like boring life is great.
Yeah, I do feel like my story is successful. You know, I'm 2.5 years out from the diagnosis. The last scan that I got in May, it was no evidence of progression. Granted, I don't know what my life will be in 1 day or 6 months or 6 years from now. However, I feel very blessed.
John was diagnosed in December of 2018. He and I had been running together and he was struggling with his left foot. So he went in and sadly they found a tennis ball sized tumor in his frontoparietal lobe, glioblastoma. So 5 surgeries, 3 rounds of radiation and multiple rounds of chemo and customized cancer vaccine. John passed away on February 3rd of 2024, just after 5 years of his diagnosis.
His prognosis was 11 to 16 months. He handled it with such force and attitude and energy.
I think he was very go, go, go in terms of doing everything he could to really improve his quality of life at the time. And he was also super dialed in on figuring out all sorts of alternative treatments.
John went to St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas, and graduated magna cum laude there. And he was captain of his baseball team, and he loved watching football, anything Texas Longhorns.
He was very involved. He coached us playing soccer, and then he coached Will in t-ball.
Golf was one of our biggest bonding things, just us two. We would go out into the course and play together. And he was an unreal golfer.
You know, friends called him Sparkly. He really was an inspiring, kind, compassionate, and strongest man I have ever known to go through all that he did. He went through a lot, a lot. Yeah, my heart breaks when I think about it.
In March of 2024, Paige was diagnosed with medulloblastoma.
Her primary symptoms were headaches. They were very minor, but it was the frequency that concerned us.
She had surgery almost immediately. She had some complications with surgery, so spent some time in the hospital after that. Once that kind of cleared up, we moved to Rochester for 6 weeks to do radiation treatment at the Mayo Clinic. And then once that was complete, she got a little bit of a break before we started chemotherapy.
School started early September, and Paige was undergoing her chemotherapy treatments. She would be gone for about 2-3 weeks. And then when she would be able to come back to school, it was typically for about 3 or 4 days.
For a 4-year-old going through something like that, she really was a trooper through the whole thing.
Even during chemo, she was triking as fast as she could in the hallway. She was playing soccer in her room, really made the most of it while she was there.
She was incredibly excited to go to school. She was there with her backpack and ready to rock and roll.
The kids in my class saw her happy and smiling every day that she was at school. She was very resilient and worked hard at everything and never gave up. I mean, she really is a special kid.
So Paige's last chemo treatment was Thanksgiving, and then we had her scan the week before Christmas and got the best Christmas present that there were no signs of cancer and she was considered in remission.
Grief is a funny thing, you know. I almost feel guilty being sad because he worked so hard to get us all to giggle.
We had a lot of fun in those ice fishing trips. One year he bent over and his phone went right down the hole. And in another year, one of my sons dropped his cell phone down into the lake. And the next year, Mike gave him his own cell phone fishing lure.
He was always quoting movies, Caddyshack, Austin Powers.
Talladega Nights about a Ricky Bobby.
If you ain't first, you're last. He took that to heart. Yeah, he just had to win.
He was quoting Fast Times at Ridgemont High when he was coming out of his first surgery.
Aloha, Mr. Hand.
Well, if I'm here and you're here, wouldn't that make that ours?
I would say our dad was very playful and goofy, slightly immature at times, and maybe gross. He downloaded like a fart app. This was like when we were like 18. He thought it was like the funniest thing in the entire world.
And while he was in the hospice facility, he was trying to get out of bed. The nurses are like, "Where are you trying to go?" And he's like, "I want to break dance." He's like, "I need to showcase my popping and locking skills."
You're still sedated a bit when they're operating on your head and you're awake, right? So even though you could see them a little bit on the monitor, it's not like she has great clear memories of everything that was.
I have clear memories. I remember him like dangling the tumor with his forceps. I've taught 2 teenagers how to drive after my diagnosis, and I've come up with many words to say stop. So I usually say red or something like that because I can't get out the word slow down.
They chose her to be the ball kid at Target Field.
She was always singing and dancing. They always do a last treatment poster, and it was centered around the Vikings, and so she was doing the gritty for all her nursing team up and down the hall, and she just randomly goes, "I need to show my super speed," and just starts running. So she's just a ball of energy.
And one thing that the dude, the host of bingo, would say is call in with a joke.
What's the ghost's favorite fruit?
What is it?
I was managing his meds. I was managing insurance. I managed everything I could just to hold on. And in reality, there really wasn't anything I could do. Now, because of humor to fight the tumor, there is something I can do.
It is a terrible, terrible disease. And my hope is by sharing our story, there will be more money for research.
The innovative treatments and the research can make a difference. And that's, I think, the reason that he lived 4 years beyond his prognosis.
As parents who have a young child with a lot of life ahead of them and a lot of unknowns about what the future is, I think unless there's a 99.9% chance of survival, it's not enough.
If Paige can help others realize that this research is important, then great. We're all for it.
Thank you for being willing to give. Thank you for supporting me and my other honorees this year. I really am grateful for every bit of support that we can have.
Yeah, and I would say every dollar helps, big or small. If you give $100, give $100. If you can give $25,000, do it. I mean, that's why you're here. Do it.
Look around. Hold hands with the person next to you, because I think we are all in this together. This is our fight. This is the way we can keep our loved ones alive.